Good morning, everybody. Oh, it's afternoon now. Wow. Would you like the highlight tape? Good thing I didn't bring the blooper tape or we'd have been here all morning. My favorite part of that is when Vince Scully, a Hall of Fame announcer for the Dodgers, was introducing me there. It was my second at-bat in the big leagues. And he was saying at 6'3", 215 pounds, he'd have made an impressive-looking general. And somebody chuckled at my table when that 215 pounds was brought up. But that's okay. I saw several people already this morning at breakfast and at lunch today. That's him, Ma? Yep, that used to be me. Things change, don't they, folks? Unfortunately, or fortunately, I should say, I've learned that a waist is a terrible thing to mind. Yes, indeed. Ah, you didn't like that one out here. I want you all to know that I've had 3 kidney transplants now, as opposed to that old video. But what you may not know is that they put transplanted kidneys in the front of your body, as opposed to back here, so right here. My first one went here on the left side of my front right, and the one that's currently keeping me going, keeping me alive, keeping me off that bad machine called dialysis is sitting right here behind my belt buckle. And when I had my first transplant, my nephrologist, a great guy named Jim Mertz there in Kansas City, he said, "Ed, the medications we had to put you on, they cause a lot of things, and one of the things is weight gain. So you got to be really kind." I said, "Doc, man, I'm an athlete. I had to take care of myself." He said, "No, you really, this happens to everybody." And I said, "Man, look, Doc, forget that." 4 months later, I came back. He puts me on the scale. I'm up 30 to 35 pounds already. And he starts in on me. You know how doctors do. They lecture you. I said, "Jim, hold on. Listen, buddy. I understand. I've gained a few pounds. But listen, buddy, you gave me the gift of life. You put it right here. This is precious. I'm just building up some protection." So I don't know what some of y'all's excuse is, but I got a good one. Because I've got 3 of them puppies here. And when we were on the Oprah Winfrey Show, now this was back when Oprah had the trainer, and she had it working, right? During the commercial break, Oprah picked up my book. Now, I love Oprah. She's done a lot of good things. And she looked at me and she said, "Ed, I got a really good trainer I could introduce you to." Now, you all know that we have on our shoulders little guys and little gals. One has horns and one has a halo. And they're giving us feedback all the time, right? Well, when she said that to me, the guy with the horns was whispering in my ear, "You need to tell her she needs to turn around and look behind her. She'll find what she thinks she lost." But I didn't do that. I was a good boy. I was a really good boy. Do we have any Royals fans here? Wow. Okay. Mets fans. Well, that's good. The ring's not going anywhere today, I guess. What do we have? We have any Cubs fans? We have Cubs fans. Really? Now, I was told not to walk off this stage today by Shannon, but this is what a World Series ring looks like. Conquering life's curves for the Cubs fan, right? How about that, folks? Yeah? Actually, Wrigley Field was one of my favorite places to play. I love that the fans are right on top of you. They're very knowledgeable, and they get on you pretty good. It's not like Philadelphia, New York, or Boston where they throw things at you that are sharp. And the great thing about the Cubs fans is they'll bust your chops pretty good on the field. And then when you're walking out to the bus to catch the bus back to the motel, the very same guys are waiting for you going, hey man, you want to go, let's go have a beer, man. We'll take you to dinner. You want to go have a few beers? I'm like, what? You know, if you did that with a Boston Red Sox fan, you might get knocked off. I mean, or Yankees fans. How many Yankees fans we got here? Go home, Yankee fans. But life does throw us curves, doesn't it? I have seen a few curves in my day, and I'm very honored and humbled, and I feel great privilege in having the opportunity to be here with this group. I'm proud of what you all are doing. Extremely proud, and I congratulate you, and I encourage you to keep swinging. Why? Because, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see in little postcards on your table there, on the other side of that great-looking guy on the one side, it's the back side. That other guy, I don't know who he is. But ladies and gentlemen, I believe it's the bottom of the ninth in America. I hear tipping point, I hear the cliff, I hear lots of things, but in baseball, the bottom of the ninth doesn't happen unless the home team, the good guys, are tied or behind. And in America, I believe we are in the bottom of the ninth. It's time for a character comeback. We don't have any Baptists in here, apparently. Can I get an amen on that or what? Man, I thought with ethics and integrity and, man, we got to come back, because this country was founded on the basis of faith, moral character, values, and principles that we are losing today. Flip to the back side of that card, if you would, real quick. And I've got a little printout I've made here, and it's a little bit radical, but it's similar to the bottom part of your card. And in red, it says, the problem, on my thing, and has an arrow pointing to the dude. Do you all have Lucifer on your mound? Okay. Well, there's Lucifer, and deceiving, deception, lies, and I tell you, it's tough. Who can you trust today? Who can you trust? I believe there's great deception going on in our culture today. It's sad. Look on the left side of that card, you're going to see the bad guys. Those are the guys that have caught up and are taking over our country. And this is not probably in the order of your card, but deceit, apathy, greed, despair, contempt, laziness, doubt, neglect, discord. Those are the things that are happening to our country today. We need to come back. The good guys with the white hats on the right side, initiative, enthusiasm, gratitude, integrity, respect, perseverance, responsibility, compassion, and cooperation. Do you think I got it figured out? I mean, that's what you all are about here. And that's why it's a real privilege to be a part of a group. I get to speak to a lot of groups. I mean, the pest control makers, the soybean growers, the toilet seat makers. It's just amazing. But I almost feel like I'm preaching to the choir here. But you know what? In today's culture, we need to be a team, and we need to come together and encourage each other, lift each other up, hold each other accountable. That's why I'm going to encourage you. You need to bring somebody to this meeting. Now, I grew up on the east coast of Florida. I was a fisherman. I mean, that was my fun pastime. And I moved to Kansas, and the fish are like bait. So I became an outdoor hunter, but I also became like a farmer. Now, I don't work at that. It's just kind of what I feel like I am. I'm a farmer. I like to plant seeds, and I like to water, and I like to fertilize, and I like to see things grow. Not necessarily plants. I like to see people grow. And we need people growing today in a positive way. A group like this has the opportunity to plant the seeds, to water and fertilize seeds that have already been planted, and grow other people and grow this organization to be more and more and more impactful as we face the bottom of the ninth in America. So I applaud you folks, and I'm proud to be here and proud to have been invited to share with you a little bit about my journey and the curves as they have happened in my life and the things that I've learned. In 1992, I was lying in a hospital bed. You ever had a pity party? Ah, yeah. In today's times, it's not hard, is it? Well, I was having the mother of all pity parties. I had spent 8.5 years in the minor leagues, turned down an appointment to the West Point Military Academy, Ivy League schools, and all kind of other football and baseball scholarships to pursue my dream. More than a dream, it was a goal. That's an important point. Dreams aren't good enough. We need to have goals. Goals have a deadline. They have a purpose, and they guide and direct our decisions. But I had made sacrifices, spent 8.5 years in that Bull Durham minor leagues. Did y'all see Bull Durham? Yeah, that's crazy. It's real. I won't try to tell you otherwise. Then I had a chance to be a part in my rookie year of a World Series championship team in New York. Man, Frank Sinatra said, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. And he's right. The ticker tape parade the day after we won the championship, just a mob of, I gotta say, about 1 million people down in the business district, Wall Street. They warned us, don't look up. The ticker tape is so thick, so heavy today, that it can cut your eyes. It was the biggest ticker tape parade they had had there since World War II. It was unbelievable. Millions of people jammed, well, millions of New Yorkers. There's a difference. And then I was traded to the Kansas City Royals. The Royals had won in '85 with a young pitching staff. The Royals were looking for a young catcher as the aging Jim Sundberg was moving on. And they chose me out of all the catchers in baseball to move there and be with that staff for the next 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years. To be together as a unit, a team. I was a starting catcher. I made it. I was ready to make those $1 million runs to the bank. Even back then, guys were starting to make pretty darn good money. But life threw me a curve. I had a shoulder injury, major reconstructive surgery, and I battled for 2 or 3 years to come back. And just so close, but yet so far. I transitioned into the business world. I went to pursue my second biggest dream as a kid. I went to the insurance business. Now that's a very important business, but it wasn't me. And part of that problem was 2 weeks into the training with a great company, and I'll tell you, I'm New York Life. One of the biggest, strongest, most conservative companies with great training, and Ed Hearn has fallen asleep at a table with 3 other trainees. There was a problem. Went to the doctor, just what's going on? And I was told my kidneys were failing. I'd be on dialysis in less than 6 months. I was told that I stopped breathing 600 times a night, that I had to sleep with this mask, pump air into keep me breathing. It was funny, the sleep doctor, she said, well, Ed, here, try this mask on. And she stuck this thing on my face, turned on this vacuum cleaner looking gadget, and I had balls about blood on my head. And she said, but you know, some people have trouble getting used to this thing, but you were a catcher, you're used to wearing a mask, so I don't think it'll be a problem for you. I got news for her. Then they told me I had a problem with my immune system. My body didn't produce a substance called gamma globulin. I love when I have a signer up here when I'm speaking, because I say, yeah, I was diagnosed with hypogammaglobulinemia. And then I watch the signer and she's like, so that means an $8,000 IV treatment once a month. I've been doing that for 21, 2 years, I don't know. Crazy. Cancer came along. But anyway, So I get that first transplant in April of 1992, and I'm lying in that hospital bed, and I'm having the mother of all pity parties. Man, why me? Fair, you know what I mean, right? We get feeling sorry for ourselves. Man, I was partying now. I can't do it anymore. I used to be able to put on that real pout, like get sympathy. But they had to cut my lip off. That was one of the cancer issues I dealt with. So this is not a real, it's real, but it's kind of remade. My wife says it still works. I can't feel anything down here, so if I got food hanging down me, just let me know, okay? But as I'm sitting there in the room, the shades drawn, the door shut, pitch black dark at 3 o'clock in the morning, something happened. Y'all remember the pity party? The party pooper? The party pooper. Oh yeah, I see some of you do. Back in the old high school days, oh yeah, mom and dad's gonna go off for the weekend and come back Sunday night. Uh-oh. We're gonna have that party Saturday night, aren't we? And then the party poopers come home on Saturday. The party pooper arrives at my pity party. The door to my hospital room swung open, light from the hall filled my room, and into the doorway walked the midnight shift nurse. She was a big gal. When she walked into the doorway, it got dark again in my room. When she flipped on the light switch to my room, I realized why they only let her work the graveyard shift. She was ugly. She came strutting over to my foot of the bed where the chart was. She grabbed that chart, looked up at me and said, "Boy, what's the matter with you?" And my first thought was, I had not been called boy in a long time. My second thought was she'd call me anything she wanted to call me. Now, when she asked me, "Boy, what's the matter with you?" I made a big mistake. I just kind of grunted at her like, "What's it to you?" Y'all ever been in the hospital? They come in there every 1, 2, 3 hours, seems like every 5 minutes. Just when you barely get to sleep and they're in there doing their thing. So I was a little aggravated. So I said, "What's it to you?" Bad. She said, "Oh, I see you got an attitude, boy." I said, "Lady, I don't need you jumping my case." "Oh, I see, boy. What's the matter? You having a pity party? You feeling sorry for yourself?" "Yeah. I see people like you in here once in a while." We give people the gift of life in this ward, boy. Pulled out the chart, she said, "It says you played Major League Baseball, boy. You played on a World Series baseball team. You know how many boys dream of getting to do what you got to do, boy?" She kept boiling me. "I saw your wife leave out here. That's a beautiful woman you got, boy. Boy, you got the gift of life 3 days ago. You know people die waiting to get what you got, boy." Yeah, I was smart. I didn't say any more. But she had had enough. She slammed that chart down back in the foot of my bed. Said, "Boy, people like you make me mad." Took about 3 steps up the side of my bed on the left side. She planted her left foot next to my bed, and she reached in her holster, grabbed that thermometer. She stuck it in there like she was going for my tonsils or something. It didn't feel like no temperature thing to me. She reached across the wall over my bed and grabbed the blood pressure cuff. She wrapped it around my arm. And then she spread out. We was like nose to nose. As she started to pump on that cuff, said, "Boy, I'm going to tell you something my mama told me a long time ago." And she stopped talking, but she kept pumping. Her nostrils were flaring like a bull, ready to charge. My fingernails felt like they were just going to... You know when they pump that thing up and you're just like, "Okay, hush, I don't think I got that bad blood pressure." I'm thinking, just please, get it out, woman. She said, "Boy, when I was growing up, we didn't have nothing. But my mama told me, and my siblings, that we need to be thankful for the shoes we got, because one day we're going to meet the man with no feet. You need to think about that, boy. Psst, thank God. Let the air out of that cuff, and she started back toward the door. Praise the Lord, I'm thinking. But she stopped. She wasn't done with me. She just turned back around. She said, boy, tomorrow at 7 o'clock, you know who's coming. The physical therapist. And you know she's going to take you for a walk, right? Well, tomorrow that's not happening, because I'm taking you for a walk, boy. I'm thinking to myself, aren't you supposed to be off duty by then? She said, boy, I'm staying overtime for you, boy. Because we're going to take a walk down the hall. We're going to go outside this ward into the next ward. The first room on the left, there's a young man in there that you need to meet. I think he really liked meeting you. You see, he's a big Royals fan. He loves you Kansas City Royals. But you know what? He ain't going to be here next season. He don't have no hair. I think you need to meet him, boy. Next morning, we took a walk. We went down to that boy's room, and I guess his dad had been warned that I was coming. He met me at the door, and he was so ecstatic. He said, Mr. Hearn, you don't know what this means to this is going to mean to my son. I walked in, and there's Royals paraphernalia all over his room. I was introduced, and this boy just lit up. I mean, he lit up like I was George Brett or somebody. Somebody important, you know. I mean, I'm just Ed. I'm no big name guy. I'm just Ed with two little letters. But this kid, it didn't matter. And you know, I sat with that boy for 2 hours. And eventually got up and I walked back to my room, pushing that old IV pole, my butt sticking out of that hospital gown. And that day, my life began to change. I had been raised by great parents, been raised with a strong faith, raised to be a good man. But there comes a time when we all need a reminder of what's really important in life. And the party pooper is a major part of my story. I have spoken to nurses associations, and I've had some nurses, about 3 in total, over the last 10 or 12 years. And I've had 3 come to me after a talk and say, that woman had no right to say that kind of stuff to you. I thank God she did. Because she cared about her patients. She brought me something that I really needed that day. She gave me perspective. In the midst of the challenges that we all face, let's face it, life is hard. It's difficult. A friend of mine says life is hard for a lot of people a lot of the time. And I believe that we all have felt the pain, that we all at times have questions, and at times we all get stuck in ruts. And the first thing that I want you to think about and take home with you, this is my first seed to you, is you gotta get perspective. Keep perspective. When times get tough, you gotta get it. Now, I would be doing you a disservice if I left you there. Keep perspective. How do you do that, Ed? Well, I mean, some of you all might be facing darkness today. Challenges, fear. I know there are people here in this room that are facing major challenges. I've met them, I've talked to them, and they got bad stuff happening in their life. What do you do? How do you just go get perspective? Well, we all don't get a party pooper nurse. That's what Ed Hearn's here for, folks. I'm almost as big as that woman was. Let me tell you what you do. You find somebody that's a little worse off than you are, and you go out there and you do something for them. They're all around us today. People are struggling in this country. They're struggling financially, jobs. Wait, government. Oh, they're not working, are they? Oh, man, there's people out there that aren't working. They don't have a paycheck coming. There are people that are struggling mentally, physically, spiritually. They're easy to find. Just find them. Because I want to ask you, who do you think got the most out of that visit to that boy's room? That boy? No, you're right. It was me. Because I got some perspective on my life, where I was at. I was a really lucky man, especially after visiting with that boy. I got to play Major League Baseball, World Series team. I got the gift of life. I got a transplant. I don't have to be on that machine. You have a choice on how you deal with the curves that life throws you. But sometimes we got to get outside. You know, we live in a world of isolation today. These computer systems, I mean, our children, I don't know what we're doing, how they're going to communicate. But in isolation, there's fear, there's despair, and there's also corruption. In isolation, in darkness. You got to get out. You got to find the light. I lost a good friend within the last year. His name was Zig Ziglar. You ever heard of Zig Ziglar? Zig touched my life. He was a good friend. And one of the things he told all of us, he says, you can have everything in life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want. Well, let me try this. You can have everything in life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want. Have you seen him in action? You get down on that knee and just lay it on you, baby. But he's right. He's so right. It's a natural law. When you give, it comes back to you. You don't give to get, but you give and it will come back to you. You bring people to this meeting, I guarantee you it will come back to you. So that midnight shift nurse, she brought me perspective. Second thing she brought me was understanding that all I got to do is reach out and see what's around me, and it can help me feel better about my situation. And I learned, over the last 20 years, I had to do a lot of reading and studying. I'm going to be honest with you folks today. I don't tell everybody this, but a year and a half after my first transplant there in '92, you see they put you on a lot of medications so your body doesn't reject a kidney or transplants. There's a lot of side effects. And one of the side effects that attacked me was depression. And I spiraled down into a deep depression. And one day I loaded a .357 Magnum in the basement of my house. And I almost quit. We have a lot of quitters today. We have a lot of people on the verge. Maybe not of loading a .357, but quitting. We quit too easily on marriages. You got to fight. There's a good book that says, I strain to reach the end of the race. It don't say I hop, skip, and jump to the end of the race. No, it says I strain to reach the end of the race. Life is hard. Marriage is hard, 50%. In baseball and professional sports, it's 80%. Families with chronic illness, it's 80%. Man, you gotta keep swinging. But you gotta have perspective. And you gotta step back in that batter's box. And what that means to me is you go out there and find somebody who's worse off than you are and you do something for them. All these years that I've been growing myself back from that basement, reading, listening to tapes, hanging around the right people. I learned that it's not about this thing we've been hearing, thinking outside the box. I'm thinking outside the box. Do you ever wake up in the middle of the night and go, box? I'm here to tell you there's something much more important you need to think outside of. And I've learned this lesson well. We need to think outside ourself. I'm going to talk about America, but I think it's a worldwide thing. We're so I, me focused, we're caught up in all this stuff. And right now we have a very divided country, but it's because we're thinking about ourselves. We have on one hand, it's on the bad guy's team, greed. On the other hand, we have apathy, handouts, and it's all about I, me. Think outside the self. Scratch out the box, forget about it. You focus on thinking outside the self, and it will change your life. It will come back to you. There was a young man in the morning breakfast today. He had on a bracelet, and in big letters, it said, weird. And I thought it was an acronym. Someone said, what's that mean, dude? And he says, well, it just means that I'm different. Okay. Then he went on to explain how he was different. And when he got done telling me, I said, I'm proud of you, son, because I'm weird too. I'm proud to be different. We need to be different because our society is heading down the stream to destruction. That brings me to a second major point I want to leave with you. There was a guy that pitched for the Kansas City Royals. He threw underhand like. He had a big mustache. He wrote poetry. He was right-handed now. He wasn't left-handed. You'd think a left-hander would be writing poetry. But left-handed pitchers, let me tell you, as a catcher, I understand. Well, left-handed. I'm not saying left-handed people it's bad, but left-handed pitchers, whoa. But this guy was right-handed, and he threw down here like this under the ground. And my buddy Dan Quisenberry, we've been hunting together. We did church function together. We spoke to groups together. And by golly, he got struck down with a brain tumor. And I was with Dan 2 weeks before he died. We were at a Barnes & Noble. First thing, when he shuffled in, he went to the register and got a book for me. It was Tuesdays with Morrie. You haven't read it, you like sports a little bit, it's a great story about life. A guy, a sports writer who has a friend who has Lou Gehrig's disease. It's a beautiful story. Then we sat at a table for about 25 minutes. That's all he could handle. And his wife came back to pick him up. And just before he left, I got up the courage to ask him a tough question. This is not something I had to dig up some real courage to ask him. I said, Dan, I know you're a man of faith. You know where you're going. You're at peace. I get it. But man, so I'm going to ask you this. It's hard, but listen, man. What can you tell me? What have you learned in the last 3 or 4 months that I can't know? Because I haven't been down that journey. And my buddy Dan didn't hesitate. He said, Ed, I've learned that we all need each other. He didn't hesitate. Today in our culture, we're doing I, me. We got fences up bigger, you're getting bigger and bigger around our yards. And we do need each other. You all need each other. This is a great team. And we need team. In 1986, we won that World Series. Many of you might remember, because it's one of the top 5 We were the cocky Mets that won 118 games that year. But the Boston Red Sox had us down at Shea Stadium, our home park, 3-2, 2 outs, 2 strikes. They were 1 strike away from winning to 4 different hitters. On the scoreboard in our own ballpark, the operator hit the wrong button and it flashed up a big banner, "Congratulations, Boston Red Sox World Series champions." The champagne was on ice in the visitors' locker room. And those of you who know the story know that we came back and a ground ball went between first baseman Bill Buckner's legs and we won Game 6. We came back the following day on Game 7, and the next day we were in a ticker tape parade. The Red Sox hadn't won in 80-some years. You Red Sox fans, you could taste it. I hear where Red Sox were, just like I hear people talk about where they are when JFK got shot. And as exciting as that was, and as cool as that was a part of my life, and the trophy as a result of that, this ring, here's the message. And I didn't know this at the time. Several years later, I learned that 3 of our guys were in the clubhouse. Our clubhouse. Out of uniform, drinking beer. As the other 21 of us were in the dugout. Do we have a doctor in the house? Do we have a doctor? Does anybody raise their hand and tell me there's a doctor? Okay. Great, we're calling 911, super. You know, it's amazing in our public schools, you're not allowed to pray, except in the case of tornado or emergencies. I'm going to ask you all to just take a moment in your own way right now and ask for God's grace, or whoever you want to ask. Just take a moment for our colleague who's Thank you. Would you all like me to continue? Okay. Where are you in the bottom of the ninth? Where is your team in the bottom of the ninth? Have they given up? Have they quit? Are they in the clubhouse? Thinking of themselves, feeling sorry for themselves because they didn't get on base, or they didn't get a hit, or they didn't win the game. And they don't care enough to realize that it's not about them. It's about the power of the team. Dan said, we all need each other. And baseball and sports is a great metaphor for what it's like to be together, combining your talents. You see, the team is about combining the gifts that each of us have. We're all gifted differently. You know, I was a catcher, but if you put me at shortstop, game's over. Because I can't move 2 steps to my left, 2 steps to my right. And if you put the catcher behind, or the shortstop behind the plate, game's over. Ball's going to backstop. Team is about combining the gifts that we have together to become stronger, greater, and have more impact. You see, the problem is we often overestimate what we can do as individuals, and we underestimate what we can do together as a team. I'm not going to stand here and tell you that the New York Mets have not won a World Series in 27 years because 3 guys, 2 leaders quit. But I'm here to tell you that I cannot believe that there's not some impact on knowing that guys quit and that didn't have a trickle-down effect on the young players who were there watching, that found out about that and the impact that can have. You see, that tells me a lot about the character. We were bad, we were cocky, but when things got tough, 3 of our guys quit. And you know, 2 of those 3 guys were not at the ticker tape parade the next 2 days later. Sad for them. Sad for them. Where are you when things get tough? Where's your team? I will tell you that if your team is a part of a group like this, they will be there when the chips are down because they will learn. You see, we feed ourselves, our bellies, all the time. We grow up learning to eat regularly, but we don't feed our heart and our soul and our mind. See, I'm from the land of Oz. Well, I'm not from there, but my wife makes me live there for 28 years now, so. And Dorothy had a dream. And the lion, he needed what? He needed courage. The Tin Man needed a heart, and the Scarecrow needed a brain. Well, you know, when I was in that spot between the big leagues in the real world and my future health challenges, somebody wrote me a very wonderful email. We get a lot of not email back then, fan mail. Most of it's autographed stuff. But this gentleman, because you see, I was traded from New York to Kansas City. Kansas City traded a young pitcher who grew up in Kansas City, and he goes to New York, and he was just a AAA pitcher. When I got traded, 5 days left in spring training, 87, I asked the Mets, who'd I get traded for? Oh, a AAA pitcher. I'm like, what? That's all you got for me? He went on to win 150 games, two Cy Youngs. His name's David Cone. And I got hurt 2 weeks into the season. And on the talk show shows, Ewing Kauffman, the beloved Royals owner, big philanthropist, even he said that Ed Hearn, the worst trade in Royals history. Why'd we trade for that bum? Like I could control, like the general manager knew that I was going to go down with an injury that would end my career. And in that man's fan mail, the letter, he said, Ed, I bet you this is tough, but I want you to remember these words. And it's straight from the land of Oz. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. That's the heart. The courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Scarecrow. Today in America, we need to know. We need to know. We need to have the courage mostly. And we need to have the wisdom. But we got to have heart to know how to do it with the right kind of heart. Team is important. Team is there to uplift, encourage, inspire, and also to help keep accountable. In a clubhouse, it's not the manager who runs the show. It's not like school, the teacher. You don't get paddled the butt. No, in a great baseball or sports team, it's the players that manage themselves. They take care of the issues. They demand that each guy is on board. If not, they'll take care of it. That's what team is about. That's why it's so powerful. And the concept I just told you about, think outside the self, that's what team is all about. Dan's right. We all need each other. So I have a few more minutes. And this is a little bit of a challenge for me and probably you. But character. I've told you some things, I've planted some seeds with you. And I've told you about going out there and doing things for other people. Being thankful for what you have. And that's all good and dandy, Ed, but just tell me, what's in it for me? Really? Okay, I understand. We're all human beings and we want to know what's in it for me, right? A man Zig said you can have everything in life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want. What do you want to do? I went down the hall, talked to a young man. That wasn't my idea, but I've learned that when I struggle, I go get perspective. I was speaking down for the Mississippi Social Security Administration, disability rehab, 1,000 people. And you know, I didn't feel ready. I didn't feel like I was ready. These people that have to decide who's on disability, who's not, and people trying to cut the system, all that. You know what I did? I went to visit a friend. Someone my wife, who's a home health nurse, had taken care of, had brought into to their program. She told me about it. He was a big baseball fan. His name was Jim, MS, quadriplegic. And you know, I learned from that nurse. And I do this all the time, but in preparation to go to Mississippi, I went and I visited Jim because I knew that he could bring me perspective. And I spent 5 hours with Jim. I had to give him water to drink. I had to help him do some other things that he can't do on his own from the wheelchair with no control from here down. And I went to Mississippi 2 days later, and I had gotten what I needed. And I delivered. Because I went there and I got what I needed. I made a difference in his life, but man, it got me prepared to make a difference in other people's lives. I don't know what you need. Maybe you need, you know, money's important. I think money, everybody needs a little money, right? There was a point there in my New York Life career that I had spoken at the Fellowship of Christian Athletes there in Kansas City, and afterwards there was a line of people, autographs, questions. I don't even think I had a book back then. And a young lady, she was about 4 foot nothing, came up to me, she looked up at me, and she was handing me a baseball card. She said, "Mr. Hearn, would you sign this for my mother-in-law? She just had a kidney transplant in the Cleveland Clinic." And she's a huge baseball fan, but she's so confused by all these medications they're telling her she has to take. And she's all worried. She doesn't understand the difference between creatinine and phosphorus and BUN. And it's just, do you mind if I ask you a few questions? Well, I've signed her card, give back to her. And there's 10 or 15 other people that I need to kind of be courteous to. So I said, "Julie, do you think your mother-in-law would like a phone call from me?" Mr. Hearn, her eyes just opened up like big old country biscuits, man. "Mr. Hearn, if you call her, she might need a heart transplant." I called Martha at the Cleveland Clinic 2 days later, and she was a big baseball fan. She loved the Cleveland Indians. Okay. She chewed this ear for a half hour, this ear for a half hour, this ear for a half hour, and an hour and a half later I hung the phone up. Couldn't hear. But how do you think I felt? I felt some kind of good because I knew. I answered so many questions about where she was headed with transplantation. We talked baseball, and you know that lady was so fired up by the time we got off the phone that she wore me out. And that's a nice little story because I'm kind of preaching here about thinking outside the self, right? That's what I did. But it doesn't end there. 2 years later, I was in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I was speaking to a group there, called home to my insurance company office, and there was a message, and it was from Martha. Martha, I don't know, Ann, I don't know if you remember me. This is Martha. Yeah, we talked. You called me at the Cleveland Clinic. Listen, honey. Now, my husband and I, we have been to our universities that we attended, and we want to gift $1 million to each of our colleges. And they told us something about a insurance policy that we can put in some kind of trust, something second to live or die or something. And so we won't disinherit our children. Do you know anything about that? Hey, Martin said, yep, I know what you're talking about. I got that for you, honey. You need that? Let's go. I'll be to Cleveland in a hurry. So I flew to Cleveland, got her husband and her underwritten. It's a great thing. I won't go into estate planning, but I fly to Florida, deliver the policy, and I come home to a $50,000 commission check. Now I know we're here in the land of oil and riches. 50,000 grand may not be much to you folks, but it is, poor boy. That was a lot of money. It was the biggest commission check I ever made. And I was a terrible salesperson. But why did it happen? Because I picked up the phone 2 years early. I was not selling a thing. I was calling her to help her. I was calling to score some points for her daughter-in-law. And it came back to me. You want money? Go out there and give yourself away. Do what you're doing, not thinking about the bottom line. Because if you're a leader, if you focus on those you're leading, you're going to go all wherever you want to go if that's what you want. They'll take you to the top. If your clients, if you involved with clients, you're in sales, you just give them what they want, what they need. You make it happen for them, and you ain't got to keep track. It'll be there, I promise you. The bottom line will be there if you have character. Now you go cutting corners, shortcuts, and you don't work with ethically and with integrity, forget it. All bets are off. The law of nature is off. Zig's right. You can have everything in life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want. Came across the saying 2 years ago, and I've loved sharing with people. It's an anonymous quote. It goes like this. I told you I was a farmer now, right? And I really want you all to bring people here because we all need each other, and we all need to be inspired, encouraged by good stuff. And this is good stuff. The quote goes like this. Anyone can count the seeds in one apple, but no one can count the apples in one seed. Gosh, that's powerful. The little thing you may do, the difference you may make, the one person you bring to this group may change your company, may change your community, or that person may plant that seed with another person who changes all of Oklahoma or all this country. You don't know. You got to plant seeds. You got to water them, you got to fertilize them, and you got to be a part of things like this. I got one more story that I'm going to share with you because I don't want to get spanked by Shannon. In 1986, part of that Mets team was late September. I'm standing in the outfield in batting practice. I'm one of the few single guys of the team. I had dated, been out with some of them New York chicks. They were too fast for this Southern boy. I mean, really fast. Standing there, I said to my teammate Randy Neiman, his wife was giving birth at North Shore University Hospital in Long Island. I said, hey man, any good looking nurses down there? I was just good. You know, it's typical conversation for ball players. Did you hear that? It's typical conversation for ball players. Talk like that. He said, oh man, dude, there is. My wife has befriended this nurse. She is beautiful. She's tall, lanky, blonde hair, brown eyes. She doesn't talk with a New York accent. My wife loves her. I love her. You got to come down, pretend like you're visiting my wife and my new kid. I said, Randy, man, I've been with these New York chicks a few times, and they are, we'll go to playoffs, and I'm going back to Florida to go back to them Southern girls, and I'm going back snook fishing, so I don't care about women anyway. They're nothing but problems. A week later, Ray Knight, MVP of the World Series, third baseman, married to Nancy Lopez, the greatest women's golfer of all time. Ray was going around the clubhouse asking guys to come the next day to the ballpark to the stadium club at 12 o'clock. We don't play till 8. He was the honorary chairman of the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. Their last meeting of the year. 500 plus parents were going to be there. Parents of children life expectancy less than 18 years of age. They had to pound the backs of their children just to get them through the night to loosen the mucus. He went around because he promised to bring some Mets. But we were the 118 win cocky Mets, and everybody blew him off. It was late in the season, we were tired, but we were cocky, and Ray was locker next to me. He started that way, came around, and I watched him. Nobody was gone. I said, Ray, man, I can't. I'm giving out trophies in Queens tomorrow, 11:30, some little leaguers. And Ray just sat in his chair, still in his stinky uniform. He must have sat there for 20 minutes. The next day came, I got done early. I got back to Shea Stadium at 12:30. I decided, what am I going to do? Do I go back to my apartment, have a New York deli sub, watch some soap operas, take a nap, come back at 4? Or do I go upstairs for my friend Ray, for my teammate, for the parents of those children? I made a good decision that day. I went upstairs and came in the back of the room, about 4 times as big as this room. Ray had just been introduced. He's like, there's my teammate in her, and I told you somebody was coming, when you promised to bring friends and you ain't got no friends coming. Well, you ain't got no friends, dude? I sat down. You probably wouldn't believe this, but I was pretty shy back then. I was a rookie, so I sat in the first chair I got to all the way in the back, and there was a little girl. Her picture is in that book. She was 4 years old. Her name was Kristen. She was on my lap in 3 minutes. We spent the next 45 minutes with her on my lap. And you know how God seems to give chronically or terminally ill children, gives them so much life to live. They grow up so fast. This girl was like, it was like she was hitting on me or something. It was just this. I was like, whoa, how old is she? The banquet ends. Her mom's sitting on the other side of her, slides over a game ticket, an old stub from a game, said, would you sign this for a friend of mine? I said, sure, so it's just routine. Sign it. She said, would you sign it to a friend of mine? I think her name's Trish. So I start writing Trish. She said, I think you know this girl. I'm like, well, Trish, how do I know her? Well, you don't know her. A teammate of yours was trying to set you up with her last week. She's a nurse at the hospital where I work. Y'all know how big New York is? What are the chances of that happening? I mean, this is like week, 10 days apart. Well, I've been hit by a lot of foul tips, but I ain't that damaged. I don't listen to God real good, but sometimes he does get through, I think. So I took a chance. So I was worried about them New York girls. I asked her mom, you know anything, what can you tell me about this girl? You gonna give me a scout report? She made it sound like she was the second coming of Cheryl Teagues. Now you know how old I am. I don't buy what women say about other women. I learned that 30 years ago. I asked her husband, you know this girl? He said, not as good as I wish I did. Now, in New York, you like to watch fights in the stands. Players, that's a favorite pastime, players. And I thought I was going to see the back end of that dude's head. Well, I took a big chance. I got that girl's number, and I invited her out to lunch a couple of days later, in the middle of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, you think outside the self. You make a difference in the lives of other people. You can have everything you want in life. When I go home tonight, maybe not till tomorrow, but when I get there, my nurse of 26 years, named Tricia, my wife, will be there. She's been through hell with me. She kissed the prince. She met me as a big league ball player with all the multi-million-dollar potential, and she got the frog. You can have it. I can't promise some of you guys that, man, but I'd give it a try. Just go give it away. It will come back to you. Amen. Whatever you want in life. And it's about team. That woman has been my team. Without her, I would not be here today. Without her, I don't know what would have happened 22 months ago when our 17-year-old son was diagnosed with stage 3 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And he had to go through 5 rounds of intense chemo. And to this day, he's battling 6 or 7 issues because of that chemo. I found out the day before yesterday, late evening, he was diagnosed with celiac disease now, on top of the thyroid issues. He's in remission, and I thank God. But man, this life is not easy. We all need each other. Who's on your team? Who can you bring into this team? Because we do all need each other. Albert Schweitzer said, I don't know what your destination will be, but the one thing that I do know is those of us who seek and find how to serve others, those are the ones who will be truly happy. Ladies and gentlemen, personally, I don't give a hoot if you're successful in life or not. I want you to be significant. You can be both, but if I have the choice, I wish much significance for you, because that is what it's about. Where I've been, I've had a chance to be with many people at the end of their lives, and it's not about the U-Haul. There's no U-Haul behind that hearse, right? It's about family, friends, faith, and have I made a difference? I promise you. What's at the core of your ethics, of your integrity, your character? If you ask me, I wasn't going to tell you the answer, but it boils down to a 4-letter word. L-O-V-E. I'm sorry to disappoint you. I'm a former major league catcher. I used to crush people when they came to the plate. I called pitches, 90-mile-an-hour pitches at people's heads. But today I'm telling you it's about L-O-V-E. That's at the bottom. That's the base. You can talk ethics all you want. Here's my challenge to you. As that nurse challenged me, be thankful for the shoes you've got, the blessings that we've all been given, the gifts that we so often we just forget about because we're thinking about I, me, and all this stuff. But be thankful for those shoes. And then lace them up, shine them up. That means get your buns here every month and bring somebody. That means better your gifts, your talents, and the difference you can make with those shoes. And then run with all your might. You don't hop, skip, and jump. You got to run, baby, with all your might to be the champions of life that I know God's intended for each and every one of you to be. And I know there's people in here right now that don't feel like champions. But I'm telling you, we are all called to be champions. Keep swinging for the fences, folks. Thank you for letting me be here.